People are enjoying our meeting. We have a very talented speaker tonight. Her name is Luisa Montalvo. She was born and raised in South Texas. She later moved to Austin, where she worked at Abbott Laboratories for 25 years. She retired at the age of 53 and has been busy rescuing homeless dogs and driving them to New York City for the past 3 years. I'm assuming to find homes for them. She has fostered and cared for over 800 homeless dogs. She joined Toastmasters in 1989 for 3 years, left and came back in 2013, and she's been a member ever since. In 2019, she competed in the International Speech Contest, which consists of 143 countries and over 33,000 participants. She advanced to the finals, where she received second place. She is the first Hispanic to achieve this level, and she hopes to one day win first place. She is enjoying retirement by spending as much time as possible with her mother in South Texas. Please help me welcome our guest speaker, Luisa Montalvo.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So this is supposed to be a workshop on humor, Humor 101. So let's open the meeting with a joke. What has three chins and a piece of acrylic?
Really? Okay.
No need to answer. We should be seeing a photo here in just a minute. I believe it was Dennis was going to share. There you go. That's your answer. Three chins and a piece of acrylic. That's me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There you go. When fellow Toastmasters, when I saw this picture up all over YouTube and Facebook, I sat there and I said, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Look at yourself, Luisa. You've got three chins and you're holding up a piece of acrylic. And with that, what we learn from humor is that if we are able to laugh at ourselves, if we are able to make a joke about ourselves, we have the audience's attention. So, starting with that, first of all, what is humor? Humor is merely the opposite of what we are expecting to happen. Like the last thing that I'm sure any of you thought was when I said, what has three chins and a piece of acrylic? I bet the last thing you thought I would put up there is an embarrassing picture of myself. So humor is the exact opposite of what you expect. When somebody walks through a door with a video, when somebody's walking through a doorway and nothing happens, there's nothing funny. But when somebody's walking through a doorway and hits their shoulder on the door, you have to laugh because why? You weren't expecting it. And that's exactly what humor is. So when was the last time that you laughed so hard your sides actually hurt? I remember I had a group of friends of mine, and we would get together almost every maybe Friday or Saturday night, be barbecuing, and then some of them would start drinking, and I don't drink, so it would be fun for me to mess with the people that had had a little too much to drink. So to me, that was the most opportune time to be able to display my kind of humor. I would take their vodka martini and make it with water and use the same glass, dump out the vodka, pour the water in, throw in some ice cubes and replace their drink. And I would just sit there and watch them as they would be drinking, and they would go to drink their new drink, and they're like, something's wrong with this drink. I would never tell anybody what I would do. I would just sit there and watch them. And to me, that was one of the funniest things that I could ever do. So I'd be sitting there laughing, and I'm sure everybody wondered why Luisa was always the only one laughing. That's why. I have a few stories to tell you, to share, and I also have a few tips on how you can incorporate humor in your speech. So we've already established that humor is exactly the opposite of what you expect. There's certain things you can do to enhance humor in your speech, but then again, you don't want it to overpower the speech. You don't want it to take over. If you do, then what happens is your audience basically just starts listening for your next joke. They're waiting for the next laugh. They're not thinking, well, is there a hidden agenda here? What is she trying to get across? No, then they just want to laugh and entertain and be entertained. So humor must be used correctly or effectively. For that to be done, you have to ask yourself, what is your hidden message? What is the agenda? Why am I using humor in my speech? There was a time, and I'm going to share a few stories with you. And I think the last thing that you expect to hear from me attending my father's funeral is a funny story. But that's what humor is. Humor catches you off guard. And while you want to engage your audience to feel everything that you're feeling, you want to get them to the very edge. And then when you release the humor, it's a relief. And that's exactly what you want to do. So allow me to share the story of my father's funeral with you. I have a brother that I adore. He's amazing. He's hilarious. Makes me laugh at the worst times in my life. And I have a sister that, well, I'm just not going to say anything about her. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything. There you go. So my brother and I are there at the funeral, and I've told my mom I want to be one of my dad's pallbearers, which means I'll be carrying or helping to carry my father's coffin to the gravesite. I had been a pallbearer for my grandmother, a pallbearer for my uncle, and now I wanted to be a pallbearer for my dad. I love my dad dearly, an amazing man. And we are there at the graveyard, at the gravesite, and I can see the tent ahead of me where all the relatives are standing under the tent waiting for the six of us to carry my dad's coffin. Now, my dad's relatives, except for myself, we're all I at one, and my brother, the other who are about 6 feet tall, my cousins, were holding the back end of the coffin. What this actually looked like, if you were looking at it from the side, is my dad's coffin looked like it was about to take a nosedive into the ground any minute. Just because my brother and I are so short and my cousins are so tall, instead of the coffin looking like this, it looked like this. Now, about a week before my dad's funeral, it had rained. And the graveyard was not one of your plush graveyards. So the ground was kind of uneven, a little muddy here and there. I'm wearing my dress shoes, and I'm used to wearing sneakers or boots, but I've got my dress shoes on, and it's about a 2-inch heel that I'm not really used to. My brother is across from me, and my brother, my gosh, in his great times, he actually has, he looked like a god to me. He actually has longer hair than I do. His hair was probably at least 1.5 feet long, but he would wear it up in a cap, so you never knew he had long hair. My mother told him, you cannot wear a cap to your dad's funeral, so you either cut your hair or you just leave your hair down and everybody sees how long your hair is. He's like, fine. He wouldn't wear a cap, and he didn't cut his hair. Beautiful hair. So we're walking, and we're carrying my dad's coffin, and it looks like it's going to take a nosedive any minute. And my mother's just looking at us, and she's got that look that she used to have when we were in church and we would get in trouble. And she's looking at my brother and I like, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up, or I don't care if you're in your 50s, I'm going to ground you when we get home. So my brother and I are carrying the coffin, and the funeral director is telling us, go ahead, keep coming, keep coming. Well, right about 20 feet before we hit the grave, I twist my ankle on part of the ground because I'm not used to the 2-inch heels, and the ground is it's a mess. So I twist my ankle, and I almost lose control of the coffin. And everybody just goes, you can hear everybody, and it's like I'm going to drop my dad's coffin. And the funeral director immediately says, oh my gosh, ma'am, do you need help? Do I need help? No, I didn't fall down. I just twisted my ankle. I'm fine. I actually got a little upset about the whole situation. And I looked at him and I said, I'm fine. Thank you. So he tells us to keep going. And then my brother goes, excuse me, sir. And he flips his hair. He says, aren't you going to ask me if I need help? Oh, oh my gosh. Everybody could hear my brother. Everybody starts laughing. I'm cracking up. I'm looking at my brother. We're laughing. And I look at my mom, and she is looking at us like, you are both going to get it when we get home. Situations like that. My brother's always been able to make me laugh in a really trying situation. And it was a bit of humor. In fact, people still tell me, oh my gosh, I remember at your dad's funeral when you almost dropped the coffin and your brother was cracking jokes. And yes. But it's funny how if that had not happened, nothing would have been memorable about my father's funeral except that it was my father's funeral. So humor has an amazing way to capture your audience and make things memorable. The one thing you want to do when you're using humor is, you can crack jokes. Like my opening line was a joke. I made up the joke. But what really audiences want when you are going to involve humor in your speeches, they want a story. We love stories. When we were children, our parents would read us a story, and that's what we were like, and then what happened? And then what happened? We want that story. So if you can take some kind of situation that has happened to you, and now here's the hard part, because it would probably be a situation that you are so embarrassed about, you would never share it. Those are the stories that are going to make us laugh. Why? Chances are, one, it might have already happened to us, but we don't want to share it. And two, it's the exact opposite of what we're expecting to happen. So tell a story. Allow me to share another story with you. I would have my niece and nephew almost every summer in my home in Austin. I would drive to Florida. I would pick them up. They'd come and stay with me the whole summer, 3 months. And I have a maybe warped sense of humor, which is good, I think. And now they remember many situations when they would be visiting with me. And I remember in particular, there was this one time I was in the kitchen washing dishes. I just cooked something. My niece was probably 12, my nephew probably 7. And I remember we'd had dinner, and then for dessert, there were a couple of Oreo cookies, some cakes or whatever. And I remember sitting there and I just grabbed an Oreo cookie and I looked up and I see my reflection in the kitchen window. And I smiled. And well, when you eat Oreo cookies, which is a chocolate piece of cookie with another chocolate piece of cookie and the white cream on the inside, when you eat that and you smile, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It looks like you haven't brushed your teeth in about 2 weeks. So I thought, okay, here's an opportune time for me to play a joke on my niece and my nephew. I stop washing dishes. I run to the restroom. I grab a couple of Q-tips, one back to the kitchen. I grab a glass of water and I rinse out my mouth. So now you can't tell I've been eating Oreo cookies. Before I did that, I took these Q-tips and I rubbed them across my teeth. So the Q-tips now look disgusting. It's like black crumbs with white and more black crumbs. So I'm in the kitchen and I start yelling, ow, ow, oh my gosh, oh, something's wrong with my ear. And of course, my niece and nephew and their friends come running. I'm holding the Q-tip, but you can't really tell that I don't have it in my ear. I'm just holding it there and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something in my ear. It's really hurting. And they're just looking at me like, what's wrong? Do you have to go to the doctor? Are you okay? And I pull out the Q-tip, which was never in my ear, and it's covered in Oreo crumbs. It's black. It's disgusting. And my niece and nephew go, oh, they can't believe this came out of my ear. And then I go like this, and I smell it, and they look at me, and then I lick it, and they go, ah, they totally lost it. And then I start to laugh. And that's when they realized I played a joke on them. They're like, what is that? I said, it's Oreo cookies. Those are the kind of stories. That's the kind of humor where if you've done something, if you've made up something and it's funny and you share it, as long as you are so descriptive that you have your audience there with you, as if they were in the, I wanted you to be able to experience what my niece and nephew experienced. I wanted to almost have you there in the kitchen with me. And to be able to do that, your ability to describe the situation is imperative. It must be almost exactly the way it happened. And when you are describing something such as that, the best way I can describe it is to pretend a person in your audience either cannot see, cannot smell, cannot hear, cannot feel. And what you will do with your story of humor is you will be so descriptive with it that they have no choice to be able to feel and see and hear and smell what you did. That is what will make your story successful with your humor, taking stories and being able to share that. Another thing that helps you with your humor is, and you don't want it to take away of the story, and you don't want it to be too much, is your props and your costume. Sometimes that says so much without saying anything. If you're able to incorporate that in with your humor, with your story, with your speech, then do it. Sometimes the more ridiculous you look, the more outlandish your prop is, or the more crazy your costume is, the better. When I gave my speech last year for the Denver conference, my final speech, I remember going to Dollar Tree, and a contestant, she was a contestant that had made it to the finals. She said, she was from Jamaica. She said, Luisa, where are you going? I said, oh, I'm going to have to run to Dollar Tree because I have to buy some props. And she said, oh, okay. What do you need? Maybe I have it. I said, I need a hammer and I need a car jack, a crowbar. She said, oh, no, I don't think I have those. So when I went to Dollar Tree, I found my hammer and I found my crowbar. I believe they were very important to the speech because if I had not had them, a lot of the humor would have been lost in the story. So if you can have a prop, a tool, your outfit, something that lends to the amount of humor that you can get out of your audience, I say again, use it along with the the fact that you don't want it to overshadow or overcome your entire speech. Now, with humor, you can use humor, but you have to ask yourself in your speech, what is your underlying message? And how will your humor enhance that? You can say something funny, you can say something silly, but with the fact that it lends or supports your idea, the whole basis of your speech. One thing that I know you do not want to do, and some people do this, is you do not want to attack your audience with humor. As soon as you do that, you have probably lost half of your audience. That's the last thing you want to do. So the hardest thing to do when you are doing humor and doing it effectively is attacking yourself. The very first thing I said was, what has 3 chins and a piece of acrylic? I had to attack myself. And when you do that, you do 2 things. One, sometimes you get empathy from your audience, which is okay. And then the other times, the audience is able to relate to you because what you have just done is you have bared yourself. You've opened up yourself for critique and criticism. And that's probably the hardest thing to do. It's so important. Again, another thing is to be able to know where to draw the line on humor. Some people say you shouldn't discuss religion, politics. There's a line that I love to use, and I'll probably be using it in a future speech. But for some reason, in one way or another, I always bring up God. But when I do, I will say something like, well, the other day, I was asking my God for some help. And then I'll say, and the reason I say my God is because I don't want to offend some of you. I want to offend all of you. You see, that is when it's okay. Because what you've done is you've again attacked yourself. I'm attacking my God. See, I don't want to offend some of you. I want to offend all of you. There you go. So in that form, in that way, it is marginally okay. One thing you're going to have to realize is that no matter how good, how great, how impressive your speech is, how good your humor was interwoven into the whole speech, you will offend someone. And they probably will let you know. Now, what do you do with that? If somebody comes up and says, when you said that thing about God, I didn't like it. I thought that was very rude. I thought that was insulting. Before you get upset with them for them attacking you, ask them why. Why did you get upset about it? And listen as if your mom is telling you why. Because sometimes when somebody comes up and says something to us and we're offended and we're hurt, our first reaction is to get upset and not even want to hear why. I have learned so much by putting my feelings, my personal feelings and pride aside and asking, why? Why would you say that? Oh, well, because this and that. Okay, all right. So maybe analyze that, look at that, dissect it. With that, if you feel compelled to change your speech, to change your humor, your style, be true to yourself. Don't change it because someone attacked you, because you offended someone. Now, if the reason that they give you is valid and you feel maybe they have a point, by all means, change your style, change your humor. But if you feel that you need to be true to yourself and continue with your form, with the way you present, by all means, stay true to yourself. These are just a few of the tips that I had to share with you. Keep it honest, keep it real, be true to yourself. Again, humor is not what you expect it to be. Humor is the opposite of what you expect. If anybody needs any help with any kind of humor that they'd like to interject in a speech or any kind of story and they don't know how to create it, how to mold it, I am more than welcome to help you with that. I do hope some of these tips have helped you on some of the ideas you had on how to interject or how to incorporate humor into your speech. I do believe there were possibly maybe some questions that if anyone in the audience had for me, I would be more than welcome to answer them. I'm not sure who is supposed to take over the meeting now.
I will take the questions, and Vaishnavi, you have the question, right? Vaishnavi?
Hey, Abhijit. Sorry, I joined late, so I was just wondering if how do you actually get to know in this Zoom kind of situation that the audience is actually getting the humor that you have introduced in the speech?
That's a great question, but can I ask you, why were you late?
I didn't have the meeting link actually. I was a little.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Do you get that? Nobody's going to say, excuse me, why were you late? It doesn't matter. It was a joke. Thank you so much. The question was, how do you know that your audience is getting your humor? When you give a joke, and this is probably one of there's two things you need to remember. If you tell a joke, don't laugh at your joke. Stay serious, okay? A lot of the comedians, if you'll watch them, they'll give a joke, they'll pause for about 3 seconds because they're waiting for the action for the audience to react, and they're giving the audience a chance to laugh. You need to do that. Now, if you give a joke and your audience doesn't laugh, you can always do, oh, wow. Okay, don't use that again. That didn't work. All right, moving on. Make a joke about the fact that nobody laughed at your joke. You will know when people get your jokes because they will laugh. Be sure to give them a few seconds to be able to catch up with what you've just said. A lot of comedians will step on their own jokes, and by stepping on it, I mean, if everybody's laughing and you start talking, the first 3 or 4 words that you've said were lost because your audience is still laughing. When I gave my speech at the finals, I said a joke and people laughed more than I thought they would. And I started to speak and I said, no, wait, hang on. Give them a few more seconds because they still want to laugh. So I actually started and went, and then I went into the next line. You'll know when people are getting your jokes. They're laughing or they're applauding. If they start throwing things, change the story.
Thank you.
Unless it's
And
money. Unless it's money. That's good. That's a good thing.
Anne-Marie, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hi, Abhijit. Yeah. Ms. Montalvo, I have 3 points to clarify. In poetry, there's a saying that you could create poetry in every object and every situation. Is that true also with humor? Point number 1. Point number 2, what is your process of writing jokes? Do you write every night, every day, like Joan Rivers? And point number 3, self-deprecating jokes. Are they safe, bad, good sometimes? Thank you, ma'am.
All right. I've written my essay on your answers. So, but I've forgotten what question number 1 was. What was question number 1 again?
Can you create humor out of everything, object, situation, or where do you get your humorous ideas?
I'm going to be very honest with you. Is there something you're really good at?
I don't know, ma'am. I don't know. I'm just trying to react to what you have said
Can you really cook,
indirectly.
or are you really good at ironing, or Oh, are you really good at driving? I don't know where I get it from. My mouth will say stuff before my mind says, don't say that. That's my problem. That's, to me, it's almost a gift. And I think it was because my brother and I were always trying to outsmart each other, trying to come up with a quick response to everything. And I think it was because of that upbringing that you can tell me something and in 2 seconds I can say something back and people will laugh. And sometimes I don't even think what I say is funny, but they still laugh. So I'm gonna take it. I don't practice being funny. It just comes naturally. And with this face, it's a bonus. There you go. The
But it's
second
also a
question
gift
was,
then.
I'm
Must be a
sorry, what was
gift
that?
then. But it's also a gift then. If it's a bonus, it's also a gift.
It can be, but that gift gets me in trouble a lot because I don't care what I say and I'll say it anyway. And they'll say, that was kind of funny, but that was rude. Well, yes, well, there you go. That's me. You're right. It is a gift, but we have to be careful with how we use the gift. The
And then my
second
last question
one,
is
go ahead.
self-deprecating jokes. Is it good, bad, or is it appropriate or supremely good?
Uh, that's a good question. I'm gonna say it's got to be both. There will be
Okay.
times when it's really good, and there's gonna be times where you said, that probably went too far. So it's, again, I think it depends on where you are. If you're asked to say something at your church, maybe not. If you're at a local bar with some of your drunk friends, go ahead. So I think the environment has a lot to do with it, and also your audience has a lot to do with it. And
Thank you. Thank you.
yes,
I
I'm
love
sorry.
you.
What was the third question?
Writing process. I was thinking about writing process. And
Okay.
do you write? Do you write every day, every night, or you write?
To be honest with you, I really don't write anything. What I do, and I can share this with you, is this right here is my friend.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll grab my phone, and anytime
I got it.
you see, if somebody says you need to write a speech, you get your book and you sit there and you're like, but at 3 a.m, I'll wake up and I'll run to the restroom and I'll stub my toe and I'll go, oh my God, oh, wait a minute. Okay, here. And I grab my phone and I'll say something and I'll go to voice memos and I'll make a note and then I'll put that aside. And anytime I have an idea, I grab my phone, I make a voice memo, and then at the end of the week, I'll go back and I'll listen to all my notes and I'll say, oh, that one was stupid. That one was stupid. Oh, wait a minute. This was pretty good. Let me work on that. So there you go. That's what I
Thank
do.
you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Montalvo. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie, you have a question? Anne-Marie, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I think you covered it briefly with the recovery tactics. So thank you for that. I really wanted to know about humor speech contest as well. How do they judge the humor in a humor contest?
If you are able to take whatever situations I believe are going around in the world or in that area at the time, if you're able to take that and build a humorous speech around that, along current events, people that have been in the news recently, that kind of stuff. If you can take a speech and build it around that, chances are your speech will be a little more, I don't want to say successful, I guess they'll be a little more impactful because everybody knows what's going on around in the world at the time. Another thing you might want to do if you're going to give a speech on humor, the important thing is to know your audience. If you're going to be talking to a bunch of teenagers, get on Snapchat, Instagram, find out what's going on at the time, TikTok, whatever. If you're going to be speaking to a bunch of seniors, go talk to your mom and dad first and tell them, hey, what was funny about Andy Griffith and all these Hawaii Five-0, all these old TV shows. So if you know your audience, then you are able to tailor the humor to your audience. I hope that helped.
Luisa, next question is from Smita. How long should be the story and message? Is there any ratio for success?
You know, the same contestant that went with me to Dollar Tree from Jamaica, she analyzed her own speech and she said, you know what? Your speech was 90% story, 10% lesson. It's almost the same ratio, I think, with humor. If you're going to incorporate that, well, no, I'm wrong. You don't want that much humor, but you want the humor to be an underlying message or an underlying idea for what your message is going to be. You don't want the story to overcome the speech, but you don't want it to be such a short story that its validity was very limited. With my speech that I gave last year, the ending and the beginning were related, but the whole meat of it was actually the story, which led to my ending to beginning. It's hard to say, it's hard to judge, especially depending on what you're going to be talking about. I would say maybe if you can do 20% humor, 20 to 25% humor, then you're good because it doesn't overpower the speech. Tough question. And I hate math. Dang it.
There is another question. How do you adjust to cultural diversity? Like Canadian sense of humor is different from a Texas sense of humor.
Again, going back, great question. Again, going back to knowing your audience. Probably my mistake last year was not realizing it was an international audience and not a United States or American audience. I did not play that out the way it should have been played, so that counted against me, I feel. If you know your audience, you want to make it, if it's a global audience, such as what the international contest is, then you want to try to cater and make your humor to be global also. It's a that's a tough question. Tough question.
There is another question is, are bodily functions like farting fair game?
Not at a Toastmaster contest, I would say, but if you're Cluey the Clown for your sixth graders, sure, I would say go do the arm thing, and you can do anything. You can do all the more bodily functions, the better. Again, going back to knowing your audience, I would say for a Toastmaster contest, no. For there's a, and I'll tell you why. There's a level of respect that we have to realize we need to stay within. And I remember we had a new member that got up and gave a speech, and she used about 3 cuss words, and we all just kind of went. Mind you, we all use the cuss words, we all use them, we all say them, but to actually get in front of an audience and use them, we've passed the level of boundary of respect that we have. And that's kind of what I ask myself, or I tell myself not to do. Don't pass the boundary of respect. So, my answer. For what it's worth. Questions for 200?
Go ahead, Shardul.
I had a question in the speech. You mentioned that you shouldn't attack your audience. Now, could you elaborate on that? So, what kind of humor is acceptable in that case?
Absolutely. Exactly what I mean is, and I hate referring back to the speech that I used in the finals, but the speech, when I gave it, I went and put myself on the dissection table, and I told my audience I was a racist. That's exactly what I said. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a racist. But with me saying that, the way that the only thing I wanted my audience to stop and think about it was I wanted them to say, you know what? I've done the same thing. I guess that means I'm a hypocrite. I'm a racist. Maybe I should change. See, if you can turn around and say, oh, I know you guys have done this. I know every single one of you has done that. Well, now your audience is offended because you've personally attacked your audience. But I said, I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed because these Hispanic men I was scared of, and I had no reason to be scared of, except that maybe because I was a racist or a hypocrite, thinking that I'm fair to everyone, and I'm not. We've had images that have been instilled in our mind, so we react a certain way to certain things, to certain people, how they dress, how they look, and we shouldn't do that. So by putting myself up as a sacrificial lamb, I'm like, you know what? I'm a hypocrite. I'm a racist. I was only hoping that my audience would think maybe I am too. That's what I mean by attacking your audience. You don't want to offend your audience. You'll lose them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one question. Being a woman as opposed to a man, can you hear me? And perception of gender when you're telling certain jokes, acceptable norms. Is there a gender gap in terms of women giving jokes compared to a man?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I actually love that question because if you say something that you didn't expect a woman to say and the audience doesn't laugh, then you turn on your audience and say, oh, because I say it, you're not going to laugh? So right away, you're making your audience think, hey, what gives here? It's okay for Paul to say it, but not for me? Come on. And you call yourself an audience? Give me a break. That's a very, very good question. I would like to think about that more. Great question. I'll have to use that. Thank you.
I have a question though. How important is timing and suspense in your humor? Imperatives
just
of
one-
humor,
oh.
of suspense and timing.
Okay, just
Those
one
two
question?
elements.
Okay, got it. Okay, I was expecting 3 questions, but thank you. Okay, I'll take the question. It's very, very important. Timing is everything with humor. Again, say your line, give the audience 2 or 3 seconds to react, let them laugh, and then come in again with something else. So timing is everything. And what is very hard to do is if you have given a speech several times and you already know where the audience is going to laugh, one of these days, which is what happened to me, they're going to laugh when you didn't expect them to laugh. And you're going to want to go into your next line, and you are going to have to be so in tune with your audience. You're going to have to listen to it. If somebody starts to laugh, you need to be quiet and let them laugh. Because if somebody laughs, somebody else is going to laugh. And that's probably the hardest thing to do with humor, is knowing when to be quiet, knowing how to be so intuitive with your audience that you've got to listen. And as soon as somebody laughs or somebody doesn't laugh, you either need to swiftly move on to the next sentence, or you need to hold back for 3 seconds and allow your audience to laugh. That's probably the hardest thing to do with humor. Great question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you ever done stand-up comedy?
No, but I want to. I want to so bad. And well, I'm only 61. I've got 20 good years left. Okay, still possible. Still possible. As soon as COVID is over, I'm using that excuse now. But as soon as COVID's over, I'll head to Las Vegas and I'll be homeless for a little while and walk up and down the street seeing who will let me give about 5 minutes of comedy, and we'll take it from there. And free steaks and shrimp for everybody. Great.
Are you competing this year?
Every year, every single year till I win. And even after I win, I'm still going to compete.
Wow. Miss Montalvo, who is your favorite comedian?
If we're talking about, again, showing my age here, Gilda Radner, straight up.
Oh, wow.
Gilda Radner, Tina Fey? Yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Cedric, you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, Luisa, I want to ask you which one you find more valuable, a threaded humor that goes through your entire speech and you're making humor on the same topic over and over, or more spotted humor in different places where they might be completely different from each other.
I think, great question. I think I like both, but I think if you stick with one subject too much, it might get a little boring. That's my opinion. Some people are able to talk about the same thing. Dave Chappelle, another great comedian, he can talk about the same thing for 20 minutes and I'm laughing the whole 20 minutes. For me, I think I would need to be a little more variety, but that's for me. If I were to perform, I think I'd have to change it up. But for some comedians, again, they can talk about the same thing for 30 minutes. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do. Great question.
Okay, thanks.
Melanie, you have a question you want to ask? So here is Melanie's question. How do you get in tune with an online audience of variable size and no cameras turned on? How do you get in tune with an online audience of variable size and no cameras turned on? Do you treat them as a single audience member as they won't laugh together?
The question is, how do you do it with no cameras? You don't.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a way to do it. To get in tune with them, I can sit here and tell you about what happened to me in 5th grade, but if everybody's camera is off, I don't know if you're laughing. I don't know if you're following me. I don't know if you're you went off to the kitchen to make a sandwich. I have no idea. This Zoom is so very hard, and I don't want to be the fox with the grapes that don't taste great. But I am so glad that I didn't have to compete this year via Zoom, because to me, audience is 90% of your speech. Because if you don't get a reaction, if when you get the applause, when you get the laughing, when you get the when everything, the facial expressions from the audience, that is your fuel. And to not have that, to not be able to see if your audience is engaged, oh my gosh, this year was tough. It was tough. That's, yeah, great question. Ooh, you don't, I don't think you can. I don't think it's possible.
Thank you, Luisa. Any other questions?
Actually, it's just a follow-up on what Luisa just said. Is it a dependency for humor much more than other sorts of speech that you rely on your audience for the feedback? Because you tailor if someone's laughing to tailor the next line on how long they laugh, or whether the audience finds the subject funny or not.
Oh, he got cut.
My bad.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I was asking, especially in humorous speeches, are you a lot more dependent on your audience's reaction to the way you craft it as compared to maybe someone who's just giving a bit like oratory or something like that? Because you have to wait for a pause until the laughter dies down, or whether the audience finds the subject funny or not. So
Yes, it's the audience will tell you everything, and it's sometimes I think I'm on such a roll or it's doing so great, and then I'll say a joke and nobody laughs, and I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me. They didn't get that? Why wouldn't they laugh at that? And then I can say something that I think is not funny at all, and it's 5 seconds of laughter, and I'm like, and I want to say, really? You're laughing at that, but you didn't laugh at the other stuff? What's wrong with you guys? But you can't say that. but that's your audience telling you what they want to hear. So it's your audience is everything. Your audience is everything. They tell you everything you need to know. Whether you can be in tune with that or not, that's what makes you a successful storyteller or speech giver. Yeah.
Okay.
Cedric, you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, so one more, since we have plenty of time. Do you get scared about going over time if your audience is laughing too much because you didn't expect them to laugh this long, or they laughed at something where you weren't expecting it? And if your speech is crafted to be as close to 7 minutes 30 as possible, then how do you deal with that anxiety?
I think the first question was, do I get scared if my audience goes over? The first time I competed in 1989, believe it or not, I made it all the way to regionals in the humorous speech, and it was in Denver, Colorado in 1990. And the hilarious thing is 30 years, oh, and I got second place my first year I competed at regionals. 30 years later, it's in Denver, Colorado again, and I get second place in the competition. The question, when you're competing, it's everything. It is absolutely everything for you to know where your speech is going to be at what minute. I wrote that speech 30 years ago, 1989, and I can still recite it word for word. I went, and this is how long ago it was. I got the speech on VHS tape, and I watched it over and over. And I knew that at 4 minutes, I was supposed to be at a certain word. And at 5 minutes, I was supposed to be a certain word. And at 6 minutes, and because it's a humorous speech contest, they're going to laugh. I actually went to the extreme of going and counting syllables. If I said refrigerator, that's 5 syllables. And if my speech was too long, I changed that to fridge. That's how serious I was about wanting to win that competition. I knew exactly where I was supposed to be. So at 7 minutes, my speech was supposed to be over. And if not, I had an alternate ending to be able to stop my speech, and it would be fine. That's how serious I was back in 1989. Last year, I knew exactly where I was supposed to be at 7 minutes. And if I wasn't there, I knew exactly what I had to do. So the audience could have laughed for 15 seconds and I still would have been okay. I feel for Quan because I believe he went over this year in time. And for you to do that, for you to get to that level and then to lose it for going over time, oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking for me. It was heartbreaking for me. So yes, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be at exactly what time.
Louisa, did you get coached by any of the world champions? Which one, if you did, and what was their advice?
No, and no. I was offered coaching services, and I told myself, I'm going to try this my way first. And if it doesn't work, then I need help. Well, I need help mentally, physically, and all that, but that's beside the point. But I thought for this contest, I'm going to try it my way first. And if it doesn't work, and what I actually did was I went back and looked at the last, anything that was on YouTube. I think I looked at the last 20 years of speeches, and I saw what worked, what didn't work. So I kind of had an idea of what I wanted my speech to be, but I didn't want to be like everyone else. I didn't want somebody to say, oh, you know what? Her speech was just like so-and-so's speech. I didn't want that. So I attacked my race, my nationality. I made fun of it. I exposed myself, saying, you know, I'm an idiot. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a racist. So I kind of knew what was going to work or what would win, what had won in the past. And I took a little bit of that, and then I also gave it my own little spin. And so close, so close. But no coaches. No coaches.
Do you derive your punchline from the narrative or setup, or do you derive the narrative setup from the punchline?
I derive the punchline from the narrative. Woo, you're asking me these tough questions. What is your name? Arnold?
Pablo.
Yes, yes.
Gracias, señora. Señorita.
Sí, señor. Sí, señor. De nada.
Gracias.
Luisa, I think you
Yeah.
answered this question. How do you calculate the time of the speech and do you improvise at all? It was from Carolyn.
It depends. Am I at club level or am I at district level? Because that makes a lot of difference. If I'm at district level, oh no, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there. If I'm at club level, I'm like, well, kind of okay. Not really. Yeah. It depends on what level you're at. International, oh, you better know exactly where you are. You better know exactly where you are.
Doris wants to hear your humorous speech.
Oh. Let me tell you this. It was about when I was a little girl and how my mom used to dress me in pink, scratchy dresses. So that was basically it. How I had my clothing revolution and decided what I wanted to wear. I went out and bought my bodysuit, my hip hugger pants with bell bottoms, and I wore white go-go boots. And I got my hair done in an afro, and I went to my junior high dance. And nobody asked me to dance, but I sat there in the corner and I had that little candy necklace and I sat there eating my little candies off my necklace. Of course, I got home and you could see all the different colors on my neck from sweating. But yeah, it was a good speech. It was really good. I really liked it. I'll
But you
have to.
say, but you said you can still recite it now, so that's why I'm curious. You can
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Just perform it for us if you.
Oh.
If you. Will we be?
You know what? I'll have to make it a video. I'll have to make it a video and then I'll post that for everybody to see because that's, yeah, you're going way back. I actually make fun of Shirley Temple. In fact, one of the lines was, my mother enrolled me in tap dance and she curled my hair because she was trying to fashion me like the icon of the 60s, Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple was a beautiful, fair-skinned child with gold and curly locks hair. I'm sure you see the resemblance. Exactly. Yes, yes. Oh, wow. Can't believe that just came to me like that. Yep. I'll have to make a video of it for you and I'll send it to you or I'll post it. But yes, one of my favorite speeches.
Yeah, must be fun.
Any other questions? Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And Luisa, seeing as how you respond to the audience, I think it would be good if everybody turned their mic on and we gave Luisa a big round of applause for the excellent job she did. Turn your mics on and let's cheer and clap. Woo!
Luisa! May I share something with you?
Yes.
Please.
The first time I saw myself, actually, if you go back to the final speech I gave on the video, in the middle of the speech, I laugh, I giggle, And it's for no reason. I'm not saying anything funny. But what I'm realizing at that moment in the middle of my speech is all I can think of is I'm going to be on YouTube. And I'm cracking up because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on YouTube. when they first posted, maybe I'm sharing too much here, but I'm going to share anyway.
Go
When they
ahead.
first posted that speech, that video, I sat there. I didn't care about the laughter during the speech or anything. I would fast forward to the very end, and for the last 10 seconds, after I say, y'all come back now, you hear? Right before that, I had just gotten a response from the audience, but I went like this, like, wait a minute, I'm not finished. So the audience subsides for just a minute. The power in that, to me, was overwhelming because they wanted to applaud. But I just went, wait. And everybody waited. So I go back to that and I don't care how I look because I have 3 chins and I can hold a piece of acrylic. But I go and I listen to the last 15 seconds. And then when I say, y'all come back now, you hear, and I leave, the audience went crazy. And I play that applause over and over and over. And I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. But that to me is like crack. I mean, I will sit there and listen to that over and over and over again. That alone gets me so exhilarated.
Oh my gosh, it's
But
narcotic.
yes, absolutely. So when you say looking at everybody's faces, and right now I've got 25 people that I can see on this screen, and I am watching every single face, because if you're not laughing, if you're not engaged, I'm offended, and by golly, I'm gonna make you laugh one way or another. And that is my goal. That is my goal. So just yeah, I see you, Carol. I see you. Backing off. Yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, I sat there and I will just listen to that applause, because again, for me, that's like the best. That is somebody saying, that was a good job. That was a good job. That was a great job. There's also one thing that totally impressed me, because somebody asked about coaches. Mark Brown, and I don't know why anybody would even say this, but there were about 6 previous winners there in Denver, at least 6 of them, past first place winners. And Mark Brown comes over and tells us right before we're going to perform, he goes, oh, just so you know, all of us previous winners, we're sitting here in the front row to encourage you. Encourage me? You're scaring me. Go sit in the back row. Why are you sitting in the front row? Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Why did you even tell me that? Now I know that all the past winners are all staring. And you know what? The bad thing is, with those lights, guess who you can only see? You can only see the front row, and you're looking at all the past winners just staring at you going, okay, come on, let's see what you got. Is that supposed to win? Huh? You think that's good enough? Oh my gosh, you talk about nerve-wracking. But I was so honored, because at the very end, when I say what I say, Mark Brown says, woo! So I impressed Mark Brown. So that to me was almost as good as the applause at the end. If you go back and listen to it, I say my last line, and he goes, woo! No. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I love seeing the reactions, everybody's faces. And if my eyes seem to be wandering, it's because I'm trying to read the audience. If you, 20 years from now, hear of an 80-year-old doing stand-up on the Las Vegas Strip, golly gosh darn it, come out and give me a holler. Go Toastmasters, go.
Of course. You'll be the first one to be there.
There,
I'll bring you a hammer and a jack if I see you.
Thank
there.
you. And Arnold, you can't ask questions when I'm on stage. Don't ask me questions, Arnold. questions.
Be
Good
able to
job.
handle hecklers.
We love
me?
you.
You should be able to handle hecklers.
Oh, you know what? Okay, bring it on, Arnold. Come on, bring it on, bring it on. You're right, you're right. Who's gonna heckle an 80-year-old woman? You would do that, wouldn't you, Arnold? Gee.
No, no, no. No, we'll always love you. I love you.
Love you too. Love you too.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you've given us as information and inspiration. And we are going to officially call the meeting over. And traditionally at Intercontinental, we have a visiting time after. So if you want to stay and chat a little bit, feel free. If you need to go, feel free to go as well. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciated it.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
May I say one thing? Thank you
Sure,
before,
sure, please,
before we
please,
go,
please.
before you go.
Yeah, yes.
I want every single one of you to know that I am no one special. All I did was say the right thing at the right time to the right judges on the right day. Please remember
Oh
that.
my God.
Anybody can do what I did. Because I'm one of the laziest people, and if I can do it, trust me, you can do it. I know it. Go out there. Do what you got to do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luisa.
Nice joke. Thank you.
Thank you. Tomorrow we have Division Got Talent, a table topics competition with feedback. We will have Dennis Dawson, Declan Shalvey, Solarzar, and Evelyn Lee give us feedback on our table topics. And next Saturday, we have Press coming up, Press, the 2013 winner, coming and giving his take on storytelling. And in February, we have Evelyn Lee talking about vocal variety on February 12th. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I enjoyed this. This is so much fun. I need this again.
Come again.
Luisa will have you again.
Yay.
Absolutely.
Y'all come back now.
Excuse me?
Y'all come back now.
Yeah. After I win first place, have me back, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. So much fun. Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate you hosting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Louise, I have to correct you on one thing, though.
Oh,
You
just
said
one?
that
Oh,
you're-
wow. That's great. Just one. Go ahead.
Just one. You said you're nothing special. What actually makes you special, as we know, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So by preparing for the opportunity when it arose, that's how you were able to come out on top. And it is very inspirational to tell your story, because you are correct. Everyone I see on this window could be the next champion of public speaking if they put in the time and effort that you put in. So congratulations to you on your success, and I look forward to seeing you win the whole thing.
All right. Thank you. Sign up to be a judge, please. Thank you. Appreciate it.
He's a humorous speech winner and a table topics winner for the district.
Woo, who's that? Dennis? Way to go, Dennis Dawson. Bringing home the trophies.
No.
Congratulations. You guys. Oh, I didn't even get to go to the chat. Let's see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I had fun.
Thank you. Abhijit, was this recorded?
Yes, it is recorded.
Oh,
wonderful. Good. I noticed that we had a couple of ladies